if you have other questions, we could ask. But that was the start. It was in that quiet moment where I realized, and at that time I was like 27 or 28, something like that. No.
Yeah. So how did that feel? Like whenever you hit that moment that you knew that you said this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. I mean, was it more of like a what do I do now, or was it more of I'm resolving to remedy this situation?
Yeah. It's really it's a very empowering feeling when you feel like you're taking hold of your own destiny. I think too often people get in the, and it's a metaphor, but the cubicle of life. You're in a cubicle doing something that you don't love, which I remember we spoke before. That's kind of like, I think, why midlife crises happen.
Yeah.
I feel like we're at a point in life where we're not doing the things that we really wanted to do, and out of desperation, sometimes we just do crazy things, or the bucket list, those kind of things. So it's really empowering once you have that realization. Yeah, so what I ended up doing, though, is every day that I woke up then, it was like you had a mission. You'd have new energy. And it's kind of like the typical Hollywood storyline, right? If you know anything about how movies are made, there's that ebb and flow of a story, right? Things are going good, then the hero has some kind of peril, right? Some challenge they have to overcome before they have the montage, right? The Rocky montage of them training and getting all amped up and psyched up. And then they go for it, and that's kind of what it feels like. People have asked me before about that, and I think the only way. There was a great quote that a friend of mine, when I was working, in the manufacturing department, what they said is, and he said, Michael, fruit grows in the valley, not on the mountaintop. And he said, you know what that means? And I had to really think about it. And when you consider a valley as being low parts in life, and your mountaintop, and you're living high, and everything's great, the fruit grows in the valley. Those ideas, those things come typically when we're at low points in our life. Desperation. You hit a brick wall. You can't back up anymore. It's like the fight or flight. You have to make a decision on what you want to do. And that's where the idea came from. I was at a point in life where I said, this is not what I was meant to do. This is not why I'm here. I have more to offer. I have gifts and talents. Now, how do I make a living at doing that? And it's awesome. It's awesome once you feel like you have control over your life again, and you have a dream. I think we've gotten away from dreaming, So.
Yeah, there's such a focus on getting an education and going out there and putting yourself through. We've talked about the situation we're in with education and debt and all that sort of thing. The concept of being an entrepreneur now is starting to be on the rise, but it's going to take guys like you and me to really push others to see that vision at the same time. So I think it's really important for people to really identify that in themselves and act on it.
So there was a friend of mine. And a friend of mine had once said, and I thought it was great, and I didn't really think about it at the time, but the psyche and psychology plays a lot into, it's a lot to have to do with your pursuing success. So during a seminar, one of my mentors was doing a presentation, and he said, I don't like the idea of using the term having something to fall back on. And I didn't really, at first, my parents always said, get your degree, have something to fall back on. But subconsciously, that is a safety net. And oftentimes in life, when we are most successful, we have no other option, right? We have to make it work. And subconsciously, that can be, I think, a detriment. But I will say that that degree had helped me when I was in the low point. So, getting that degree, I ended up obtaining it. It did help me in a low point. But I wonder how life would have been different had I not had it, and I had this feeling very, very early on. I don't know. It's just it's a multitude of dominoes. When you look back on your life, oftentimes you never understand why certain things happen until a couple of years, or a decade later. So.
Right. I was going to kind of save this part of the conversation for later, but I think we're at a good point to talk about it. We talk a lot about, you talked about the midlife crisis. You talked about, you were 27 years old once you realized, hey, this is how I need to move on. Um, let's speak to adults that are having these feelings, and how do they what do they have to do? What are the step by steps that they have to do to move into pursuing the career that they want? You and I have talked about what it takes to move it into a full-time job.
Right. Well, a great website that I always use, and I always share links with you, is Freelancers Union. Great articles on keeping your momentum, when you get in lulls in life or in your process, keeping that momentum moving forward. For me, I think it all starts with really, do you know in your heart something that you really, really want to do? I've had conversations with adults and, even my wife, and what's the passion? What is your passion? And I don't think a lot of people spend a whole lot of time thinking about that. Unless that's a desire on your heart, you probably won't come to that realization. You're going to continue to live on autopilot. And some of it is, everybody's circumstances are different. So, I'm not judging. But if you're on autopilot and that's not a desire you have, you probably won't come to the realization because it's not what you're looking for, right? So I think it starts with, I call it the classroom of silence. I do a lot of reading, and it was a term that I really thought was great. Classroom of silence. What does that mean? Whether for you it's prayer, meditation, just being out by an ocean or up in the mountains, quiet time. Quiet time for self-realization, right? What is it that I was put on this earth to do? Once you ask the question, the answers begin to reveal themselves to you. So if you are somebody that's watching this that's had a passion on your heart, whether it's writing, creating, you're a social person and you want to get out and talk to other people but don't have a platform, just start, I think, spending quiet time. For me, it was that composition book. I would recommend getting a composition book and just start writing your thoughts out. Write them out. It doesn't matter how silly you think it is. Just write them out because you can always refer to it later. But you don't want to miss that, maybe that spark or that epiphany that you have in the moment. Always have something to write. So once you have the passion, then it's a matter of just seeking out. Like I said, I do a lot of reading. They call it, what's the word they use? So if you want to get a new car, right, you start, it's called reticular activator. It's a word I learned a long time ago. It's a fancy word that just means you start to notice things around you. So as you focus on your passions, what ends up happening is you start to, it pops up more and more around you. Okay, if it's something you want to do, your mind starts focusing on those things or realizing those things are all around you. And some people may call it, like, I don't know, the law of attraction or something. But the point is that you're focusing on something. If you want a yellow VW Bug, right, a Volkswagen car, you're going to see it all over the freeway now. It's weird. It's a weird thing. But once now you're in that environment, for me, I was going to shows. I was listening to lectures. I was looking on YouTube and looking at people that were already doing what I was doing. That led me to attend a seminar where I befriended the speaker, and he became a great mentor for me. So I think that's the next step. When you put yourself in that environment of the passions that you want to pursue, you naturally will start living in these circles. We talked about circles of champions, that term before. And people who influence you, that encourage you, that don't put you down, people that will continue to give you new ideas and optimism. But these are people in your circle now that believe in you, that will challenge you, but also give you good insight into this career. It's like a tribe of people that you have. For me, artists, I surround myself with other artists. I ask them questions. But these things will develop as you start to submerge yourself in that environment.